going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I got my good friend here, fellow film producer, filmmaker, Eric, Tomj. How are you, buddy?
Hey dude, it's good to see you. How you doing?
It's always good to see you, man. You had quite a busy past week. You were on set, right? You were getting, you were getting out there. You were killing it. How did that experience go, buddy?
Yeah, dude, it's busy couple weeks. It's been great. I guess because city, or I guess the city of Toronto or Ontario, I'm not sure what it was, went into like the state of emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Everything sort of got pushed right into the end of the state of emergency. So like as soon as that ended, there was like all the things that were supposed to be spread out over like 2 months were sort of, in 2 weeks, and it was like, whoa, that's a that's a lot of work right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, of course. But that's great that you actually had people being accountable and saying, hey, like let's make it all in 1 week. A lot of times, right? You're dealing with a crew that says, yeah, it's okay, we'll get to it in a few months. But I like that style, right? Busy's good, as I always say.
It's good.
How was the shoot itself though? Was it enjoyable being back on set?
Yeah, I mean it's really strange to be back on set these days because it's like it's sort of like being back on set but sort of not at the same time.
Right.
Some of the elements are there, but you're missing a whole ton of things like with the masks and the distancing and like the sort of rigid procedures that need to happen. You sort of like that whole sense of communal filmmaking, where you could give somebody a hug, you
Of
know what
course,
I mean? Because you wrapped and it's great, and go and have a good time, or like, talk to somebody sort of intimately about a character moment on a set and like work through it. It's you don't really have those things anymore because you're all so far away and masked up, and everyone's
of course.
it's just it's sort of like a muted experience, in a
It's very
sense.
surreal. Yeah, it's very surreal. And I wanted to mention, does it affect the creativity in any way?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, there's definitely that sense of like you can't get like whereas before you would have had the time to sit down with people and work through a moment or restructure a moment from like what you're filming on a set. Now everything is sort of like has to be incredibly scheduled and regimented. Not that it wasn't before, but because of sort of like the social distancing, you have to take lunch at this time, and this six people have to go for lunch first, and then these six people have to go for lunch. So you have less sort of space in that time to be creative, like, and especially be creative in the moment on the day.
Right. It's yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. And I told you my experience. I filmed a project last year, and it was over the course of the summer, but it was that window when everything just seemed to go back to normal. There was like what 20 cases a day, if that.
Crazy.
And I never really like, we obviously wore the masks, but I think the protocols weren't as strenuous as what maybe you're experiencing right now. And it's very interesting that you mentioned, all these protocols you have to follow, because I guess some filmmakers are making light of it or staying creative because they showed the layout. You know how you always see on those Instagram posts, like the lens they use and the equipment.
Right.
And there was a mask that was part of that layout. And,
Really.
and yeah, and it got a whole bunch of likes and attention. And it was like some film production page, obviously, right? But I enjoyed that because I said that's part of the reality. It's grim, but it's like he's embracing it and saying, hey, if you want to still get out there, this is what it needs to be done. And there's a lot of people I've noticed on Instagram wearing masks and just part of their behind the scenes footage. At least they're being safe and respecting the idea. Have you been following a lot of that, like keeping in touch with filmmakers and what they're
A little bit, man. Not as much as I'd like to. I've sort of sort of kept off the social media recently a little bit, not as
okay?
much, and
Yeah,
uh it's all depressing, it's not it's not like
yeah.
yeah.
It's not very uplifting and inspiring. I think I know what you mean. A lot of times it's a reminder, where the world's at. Is what's your take on social media though? You said you are taking a break from it. Is it just temporarily you're taking a break, or you're just kind of caught up busy?
Probably no, it was a conscious decision, and it's probably a temporary thing for sure, but I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know, um it's just taking up a lot of time, in my day and in my life, a lot
of
of
course,
space.
man.
And like some of my films and whatnot, there was started to be all kinds of stuff that was coming out about them and about like the promotion, and it's just making me all anxious. I was checking it way too often, so I just shut it off. It was just easier like that.
You get addicted to those notifications, man. It gets the best it gets the best of us, especially myself.
It's just a lot sometimes.
You're
Yeah.
are you hearing back from the person, or just wondering, just any form of feedback would help, peace of mind, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I think that's a smart decision, man, because you can get carried away on social media, and you stay more productive that way. My biggest thing is you produce more than you consume, right? Which is what you're doing, is showing up on set, interacting with real life people, and if you do check it, it doesn't consume you. Is that the same attitude you kind of have?
Yeah. I that's a great way to put it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I was actually checking out your IMDb page, and I just wanted to kind of understand your filmography and really see what you've created over the past few years. Um, and a lot of great stuff, a lot of stuff that I'm curious to watch as well. And I want the audience to, you know, view them as well and see what kind of work you've created. And aside from producing, I noticed you wrote and directed two films, one of them being Man vs. Food and Long, Long Time. And I just wanted to know, like, what was the source of inspiration for these two stories? Like, how did you did you develop it yourself? And yeah, how did you just make them become a reality? How get these projects running?
Yeah, well, they're two incredibly different films. Long, long time is a huge, $25,000 big short film, and Man versus Food is like a no budget like thing we threw together for fun. Um, but I guess
Oh
Man versus.
man, yeah, Man versus Food. I want to hear that first, because you and I are both, I should state this now, into California sandwiches, and I just had a Vegancina meat sandwich that you've
No
yet to
way.
try. Yeah, steak sandwich on
Dude, I'm gonna go.
Sunday.
I'm gonna
You
go.
have to go, man. You have
Yeah.
to go. It's a sin not to go. I'm teasing Eric, of course, because I remember with California sandwiches, I suggested a location in Vaughan that he must go to, and he did. So I'm very proud of him for that. But anyway, back to Man vs. Food. I immediately thought of that show they used to have on the Food Network, about this tubby guy. He used to go to like all these different American restaurants and just compete for that big prize at the end, win a T-shirt, whatever have you.
Right.
And yeah, I love to know, like, what was the source of inspiration for this?
Um. Okay. Well, Man versus Food is sort of the brief synopsis of it. I don't want to give too much away, but
Okay.
it's sort of about a guy who works at an Italian restaurant who's trying to stick to his diet, like because he's trying to get ripped, and he works at this Italian restaurant. And he has to feed all these people these sort of ridiculously amazing Italian meals, and it's about that struggle.
So
And
it's not a true story, because I don't know what Italian would put themselves through that.
that's
Right? Trying to lose weight.
point in case, point in case.
Man versus Food, not based on a true story.
Not based on a
That's great,
put that
man.
on the poster. You're right.
Yeah, there you go. That's the tagline.
It's the tagline, dude. Yeah.
I coined that term.
There you go. Money
I was
maker.
joking around with side joke. I was joking around with my buddy once, and we were just like developing a story, and we're like, how funny would it be? I said to him, I'm like, I always wanted it to be like you watch a movie and it's like from the caterers of Django Unchained, like something's just out of left field, like something stupid, like the guys on set decided to make a movie.
Right.
They had no creative contribution to their past project.
That's
All the
amazing.
film people, it's a film joke. They'd probably understand. But yeah, with Man vs. Food, what was the experience like though? Was this your first time working with actors and being on set?
No, I've directed some stuff before.
Mhm.
But it was sort of a fun, spontaneous project that we threw together very quickly.
Nice.
But it was a great time, man. It was sort of fun to just do something sort of comedic for 2 or 3 days and sort of
Of
just take a
course.
crack at it. So, but it was fun. It was a small thing, which is really nice because like a lot of the things I was doing and have been doing after that have been like these sort of like bigger things with a lot of moving pieces, like a lot of crew members and a lot of stuff. So it was sort of fun to like not do that, and just have a few people and pull focus yourself. Like, what's that like?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do stuff like that, it was a good time. And a lot of some of my good friends who sort of have worked on some of my other bigger things came out and did that for fun, just because I asked them to as a favor. So
Oh,
we had all
nice.
kinds of fun people there, and it was a great time. Yeah.
Those are the best experiences, man, because you guys learn a lot from each other. And it's a smaller crowd, so it's a more intimate experience. You guys understand. It's not as overwhelming. You and I, you've been on big sets where it's like, how do you even absorb the knowledge that you did working on a short film, right? And it's two different worlds, of course. I remember speaking to a film director about this, and he advised me, you should dabble in both worlds. You should do your indie projects, but you should also see how it's like to work on a professional, big studio, big budget set.
Right.
And that's something you do yourself, right? You're
Yeah. Yeah.
you're working on what projects have you worked on? The Boys, right? You worked on The Boys?
Yeah, I've worked on The Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shazam, like
Shazam, yeah.
yeah,
So
like, yeah.
those are some great projects. The Boys especially. You have
Yeah.
yet to watch The Boys, right?
I have yet to watch many of the things that I've actually contributed
Oh,
to. Small
this guy's like the Johnny Depp. He doesn't watch the films he's been part of.
Well, I'm a part of them like this much,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You're
but
taking it to an extreme. That's what it is, right? You don't want to see your creative contribution.
yeah, that's it. I'm a diva. That's it. I have rules about this stuff. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what kind of things do you learn about being on a big set like that?
On a big
Like working on The Boys? Yeah, what kind of things? Because I'm always curious about those things. I've yet to do more projects like that.
I mean, in that on most sets, I'm there in such a specific capacity. I'm a cog in the wheel. I'm like just one part of the bigger
Right.
machine. Whereas on like some of these other things, like the long time, I sort of was the one of the key pieces in the machine. There, I'm not an essential piece at all. You need everybody, but I'm not running anything. I'm just a small piece in the puzzle, and I love that.
Of course.
Like it's so fun to do that, and to go and be a part of something where you can just be a little piece of the bigger picture, versus trying to have to orchestrate the bigger picture.
A lot of creatives will find that though challenging because they feel they need to contribute. I don't know if it's an ego, but do you enjoy that structure though? Like a lot of them, I'm guilty of this too, where it's that feeling of, oh, I'm waiting around. I don't really have like a voice, or I'm not doing anything much.
Yeah.
Is it refreshing though from time to time to do those sorts of projects?
I like it, man. I think it's fun to work on a bigger set and not be important at all. Like,
Yeah,
I
that
think
pressure on that weight on your shoulders of like thinking
yeah,
on the spot, like all the decisions.
and it knocks your ego down a ton, and like, but I just like being there, like
Yeah, that's great.
I'm not like fussy. I just love to be there, and it's fun to be around these. I just like watching, to be honest with you. Like I pay to watch, let alone work there. So like,
of course,
it's a great experience to sort of watch these people do their thing, and I just sort of be there enough of a role that you're like contributing, but like not enough of a role where you can sort of like contribute, but also sort of absorb at the same time, and like watch what's happening and really sort of just sort of take it all in, and I think that's fun.
Yeah, you embrace the opportunity, right? And it's the opportunity to be on a film set. And a lot of people that might not understand the passion for movies that we have, they won't understand that when we get on set, like I said, I was telling that director, it's a different feeling, that satisfaction, right? As much as it's stressing you out, and I'm sure you had your own stress this past week with your film shoots, the end result's always worth it. That's what I find, right? It's always looking at the end product and saying, wow, like this is my imagination, this is my creative contribution for the world to see, for people to see, whether it's, I should say, my community or the world, right? You don't know how far it can take you. And I think that's what you bring to your projects, and that's the vibe I was getting, which I wanted to lead into long time. What was the inspiration for that? Was that something? It was a period piece, I believe.
Yeah, that's a big film.
Yeah.
That's yet to come out yet. I'm really excited to show you and the audience.
Yeah, of course. Production value is insane. I love the cinematography, I should mention. Like the photo stills, very nice, and the shots that you look in it. But yeah, walk us through it. Like, what was the inspiration behind it, creating this kind of story?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the film in the briefest synopsis is it's about a soldier who's like, a lot of his friends died at war, and he sort of comes back home and the war is over and everyone's happy and is celebrating, and he's sort of trying to wrap his head around everything that's happened, and sort of like a thriller, like a coming home type thriller film in a sense, you know,
Oh,
psychological.
nice. Oh,
Um,
so it's a psychological focused, yeah, like diving into his mind and how he views reality.
yeah, a little bit. And so it's a character study on I guess, you know, PTSD and veterans, and it's sort of a comparative look at, you know, the mind of somebody who might have died in war and the mind of somebody who, you know, came back from war, you know, and like that's
Right.
what he's struggling with, you know. And so it's yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it sounds like a very dramatic story. What comes to mind is what Captain America, Steve Rogers went through. I'm not trying to insult the
Great. Yeah.
dramatics telling, yeah, but it's still the same vibe where that dilemma of he's fought in the war, and all the people he knows is gone, right? And when he returns back and adjusting to that new lifestyle and interacting with people he's never seen before, who to trust, really. I think that's the biggest question. And is that something that your film dives into, that question of who to trust emotionally?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. It sort of rides that line a bit for sure.
Yes.
Um and I
And
think
I,
that like fish out of water thing that Captain America has, like, you know, when he
mm,
comes back and, you know, nobody around him has experienced the same thing as him, is like that's a little bit there as well. Like those sort of themes are present, you know, in the film. And so it's a big project. I'm really excited to show.
yeah,
uh
no, it looks massive, like an undertaking, and that it's exciting. It's something that I look forward to seeing, and I wish it the best of luck. Um, I know
Thanks.
you guys are submitting it to festivals, I'm assuming, and or it's already circulating.
Not circulating yet, but it's
Oh,
done.
okay.
But we're a bunch of stuff coming soon. I can't say much, but as soon as
Yeah,
I
of
can.
course. Yeah, yeah,
But we
for
had a
sure.
great cast, you know, and yeah, tons of great people. The same some of the same actors from one of the same actors from
Oh,
Man
okay,
vs.
nice.
Food, my friend Alex Pachalis. He's a great actor.
Right.
He sort of did both projects, which was a lot of fun. You know, that he was
That's
able
great.
to carry
Yeah.
over. It's a great actor. Yeah, yeah. It was,
How are you able to assemble such a production though? Like this, were these people that you knew through the business, or did you seek funding?
so from the start, or from like just getting the people, like what?
From the, yeah, from getting the people, like getting that budget, getting I think I'm more fascinated with the production value, like how it looks so polished, like the way it did. Um,
Yeah.
was it just a combination, I guess, of people you knew in the business?
Well, I was able to sort of assemble some of the finances for it, you know,
Okay, nice.
through um, used a variety of sources, you know, a little bit from like the government, a little bit from here and there, you know, different places, to sort of piece together at least the partial financing for it. And then at that point, I was able to sort of push it out there to a bunch of, you know, really great collaborators, you know, and that was sort of the
Hmm.
fun of the project. I always like to sort of be like, if you're like the worst person in the room, you know, like if everyone there is just way better at their job than you learn so quickly. And like that's what
Of
I was
course.
going for. I was like taking no small shots with that film, and I was pushing it to as many big people as I could, you know, and like the cinematographer Matt Bendo, um, he's an incredible cinematographer. He's really one of the keys to the look of the film. Like you're asking about the production value, that's a Matt Bendo thing, and an art department, Wendy Wu, and the art, like the art team and the
Yeah.
cinematography team, and then all that, and then it was just like a matter of like, you know, assembling the right people, and you know, and then in post production as well to make it really sort of come sort of pull together, you know,
Of
like
course.
colorists, like, and we had Clinton Hamuth at Art Jail was a colorist for us, which is like he's a great colorist, and he did our film, and that contributes to the look of it. And yeah, it was, yeah, it's the team of people. I think everyone contributed to,
Yeah.
you know.
And you
So
mentioned something interesting where, uh, which is very true. You learn from the people you bring on board, and like you said, it's if they're like you or better than you, it's a benefit. And I'm sure you've learned exceptionally amount of work that you can provide, that you can use and apply to your next projects, right? And even to mention that it's a period piece, like the fact that you had to make it believable and that authenticity, and like you were saying, like the art department, and I'm sure the art direction, right? The sets, the costumes. everything played a part. So that's why I'm saying it's a huge undertaking, and I commend you on the fact that you saw it all the way through. And on top of that, I should mention that you're also an actor. Are you the lead in this project? Because you acted in this
I
movie.
did act in this project.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I do. I'm an actor. Yeah, I acted in the film.
Yeah. What was that experience like? So you wrote, directed it, and acted it, correct?
Yeah, and I did some
Yeah.
producing, which was
That's
crazy.
amazing. So what was it like, man? Tell me. What was
It was
that?
a lot.
Charlie
That's
Chaplin over
the
here.
honest answer is it was a
This
lot.
guy's Charlie Chaplin.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's all these things, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
it nearly killed me, But
Yeah.
no,
What's left is you got to compose it. I bring up Charlie
no.
Chaplin
Oh,
because
you should hear the
that guy's
score.
like such a genius.
You should hear the score for this film. It's like incredible.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't wait,
Spencer
man.
Cregan. He composed a bunch of movies like Blackwater with Jean-Claude Van Damme and like Late Night to Late Night and like with Mindy Kaling. Like, yeah, it's great. I can't wait. It's gonna be on Spotify soon, so
That's great.
yeah, for you to hear it. But yeah, I acted in it. It was a lot. It
Mhm.
was great to do it. It was a great part. I lost a lot of weight. That was like
Mm.
one of the big things with that
Mhm.
part. Was like this guy was sort of traumatized, and it was like, how do I I went to like a lot of like the veterans halls and things like that around here. There's
Right.
I just kept looking at all these photos and talking to all these people, and they just had like this sort of like sunken look in there, like they've been starved of life.
Yeah.
I like all these photos. So when I was like, how do I do that? Like because I obviously don't look like I've been starved of life, thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Of
haven't.
course.
And yeah, so it was like that was trying to get myself to sort of that space, and that was challenging to do, to get to such a like a sort of a dark spot while also trying to sort of like spearhead the project and direct and
Mhm.
be like this sort of like businessy kind of like person who had to be responsible for everything anyways. It was a lot, but it was a great experience. And I had a great supporting cast. Like
Mhm.
like I said, that guy Alex Pachalis and Chris Ormerod and Emily Wirgens, they were a couple actors who were sort of in it with me, um, which
Nice.
is which was great. And I have a great first AD named like Jan Kaminsky. He's this like Ukrainian first
Oh wow.
AD. Yeah, he's great, dude, and he's a dear friend of mine. And with all those people, sort of like were the structure that allowed me to do all those jobs. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
have done all the jobs without all of them sort of supporting me through it. You know what
Of
I mean?
course. It's
So
very important that you, and that's credit to your producing, right? That you got all the right people for the job, the right people for the job, and they all played a part in allowing you to wear all those multiple hats without burning out,
yeah, it was
right?
a hell of an experience, dude. I can't wait to show it to you guys. There'll be some stuff coming soon.
Yeah, the poster looks really cool too. I remember you showing me, and if you even go on Eric's IMDb, you'll see the poster. It's very La La Land kind of inspired. It's a Wonderful Life, that era, the style. Well, La La Land is derived from that era, but
Yeah.
it reminds me of, again, the old uh, vintage looking posters of that time period, a very innocent time, right? And is there an artist that comprised that? Is that someone separate from the
The
project?
hand drawn poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually drawn by Alex Pachalis, the actor in the film,
Oh,
one of the
wow.
actors. Yeah, he's an
It's
artist,
amazing. Oh, great.
and so he drew out the poster, and I was like, this is incredible. And so and
Yeah, then
the
that's something
film
you
is sort
use.
of a throwback in a sense, right? So that
Of
was sort of the
course, yeah.
fun of it. It's like I have other posters, other like cinematic looking, sort of modern.
Gritty. Yeah, you could have made it look gritty and like dark. Like you said, like a psychological thriller,
Right, but it
right?
was it was just such a nice like throwback. Then the
Hmm.
film is a throwback in a sense, so it's such a it just seemed right.
Well, this goes back to authenticity and uh, why for me, just looking at the shots and the photo stills and the whole package, I would say, is you just feel like everything is working together. Everything belongs together. The poster is an appropriate use, right? You're not putting like an 80s inspired poster. You're putting something that was from that timepiece. And I think one of the biggest things is when I looked at the photo still, it reminded me. Bringing up Captain America though is they did shots like that where the lighting and the cinematography of that World War II era, and you really sold that look with the sunken eyes and the jawline, the cheeks. Um,
Skinny Steve.
The skinny Steve, pretty much, man. Even the haircut, is pretty much spot on. And I think the reason why I'm commending this a lot is because I understand it's difficult as it is with big budget movies, because you see ones that don't do horribly, convincing you that it's a period piece. But the fact that at our level, or your level, I should say, pulling off such a period piece and the undertaking, making sure everything looks authentic, it's very important and critical in the believability. And I'm sure that's something that you were stressing as wearing all those creative hats, right? No matter what, we have to make sure that we don't detach from this reality, this universe, right? We can't be any sign of something that wasn't part of this time period, or at least someone would point out and say, whoa, that doesn't look right,
It's a producer's nightmare, to try and make a movie in a World War
Yeah.
whatever, like it's not pleasant at all. Everything is harder, right?
Yeah, it's
So
yeah, but it's a learning curve, and it's something that you overcame, and now if you want to make something about the ancient Romans, you'll have a better chance, right?
I think I'll take I'll take a rain check on the ancient Romans, I think,
Yeah,
man.
right. Are you a fan of history though? Like, is that
I
something you'd
love
be
history.
interested in storytelling? Oh,
I
nice.
love history. Yeah, I would make
That's great.
history movies all day if it wasn't for the fact that they're like a pain in the
Of
ass to
course,
like
you got to fly
try to
to
get all
Italy,
the
bro.
stuff right.
Yeah, you have to fly to like Italy or some shit just
Can't
to
have
film
your like
it.
Ford Escape in the back because it throws the whole thing off. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Of course, man. No, yeah. Who's gonna rent 100 horses, right?
yeah. You have all these weird tasks you need to figure out. Right? Like
Ben Hur scale.
yeah, it's like how do you get that quantity of stuff that you need to make it like, because it's not like producing something like that, like a period piece like that, right? Like you think it would be simple, you go, okay, you shoot it in a location that doesn't have any modern stuff, you do right? But then you also think about the problem is it's not the main characters that's the problem, it's everyone else in it. That's the nightmare, right? Because like with my film, we had like 35-40 extras some days, right? And you have to like, it's like each of those people have to have a costume, and they have to have their hair done in a 40s fashion, and they can't be wearing, like, they didn't have like earrings at that time. They were always clip-on earrings. So it's like you have to clip on earrings, and
Yeah.
and the certain like tungsten light, like it's very specific. And like we had to like remove air conditioning units from the location with VFX. Like it was just like all these things. It was just like super tedious. And like there's not very many buildings that are like not restored or look close to sort of like the 1940s anymore. Like a lot of buildings have restorations inside of them, or at least partial restoration. So it's hard to find somewhere that looks like that, right?
Like truly authentic, yeah. Was there a consultant on set though, like a historical? Did you guys have someone to make sure if everything looked as authentic as it could?
So not on set, but before we got it authentic, like the script, we had some historical consultants, yeah. And then with the costuming was a big thing. Was just like we really had to understand who was going to be wearing what and who they were. Like it was almost like creating a backstory for all of the extras in a sense, because you really had to sort of like understand all the pieces of the puzzle with them, right? So yeah
it's important. The reason why I asked that is because I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't really know where to start in terms of meeting that historical accuracy. And, having that back and forth with these people, having that expertise was probably a weight off your shoulders, right? Preparation.
A little bit. It was definitely like, you don't want to, if you're going to put all this time and effort into it, you really don't want to mess up at least the authenticity of the piece, right? So yeah, it was very helpful to have so many people, to help.
It helps, man. It helps a lot. And, from my experience with being the few projects that I've done, no matter how small, no matter how big they are, it's always important to be prepared, and you have to respect the story. If you want to, everyone on set, or your crew, your cast, anyone that's a part of it needs to respect the story, needs to respect the vision, because if you don't, you're not going to reach your optimal performance. You're not going to express what you want to express, because the camera doesn't lie, as you and I both know. People will know if you're bullshitting it, whether it's a performance or even a director that doesn't know what he's doing. You have to, and that all starts from respecting the story. That's something I tell a lot of my colleagues or friends that are interested in film. Is it starts from the beginning. And I mentioned this actually because I'll give you an example. That film Cracked that I have for you to watch, hopefully soon, circulating right now at festivals. That was like a directorial debut for me. That was the first time I was dealing with actors and scripted material, and it was a big step. But I was telling the people that I was working with, my colleagues and now turned friends, is they were nervous about bringing me on board. They weren't, as anyone would be, they weren't sure, how everyone was going to operate and work, how was it going to work out. And what I told them is that I think it was necessary that we respect the story, because the story was about mental health, and mental health is something that I'm always encouraging people be aware of. Take the right steps in ensuring that you have a healthy mindset, especially with this pandemic. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, approaching that subject matter, you have to have such sensitivity and sort of empathy for the characters, and really understand that what they're going through. I'm not saying someone who doesn't understand mental health would do a poor job, but I really do believe it wouldn't be the best work they can put in. So I think it's very important. And back to what your film, A Long, Long Night, you going into that story, you respected the time, you respected the period. That's why things came across very authentic, is because this is a story that you wanted to tell with accuracy, right? So
Absolutely.
so very admirable on that note. And again, very exciting, just hearing the process you went through. I can't wait to watch it. And yeah, it
I can't
is.
wait to show it to you. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. I that's leading me to my next point here is, I just can't help but think, with this pandemic and everything that's going on, and I'm sure you're thinking about, even, I don't know if you're at that stage yet, probably not, but distribution and just thinking about the future. What do you think the future of movies will be like? Do you think it leans more toward back to normal with theaters, or is it going to be streaming services?
It's a great question, dude.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it's something I need to know, man, from you, because I respect your opinion, and I'm curious, like, how you see the industry, where it's moving towards.
I mean, my guess is as good as anybody's at this point, but I mean, I think that I definitely feel as though like that theaters are I definitely feel as though the contrasting, like before, like 10 years ago, they would have like small movies were sort of funded by sort of somebody like Miramax or like a smaller thing, right? Or Fox
Hmm.
Searchlight. And then big movies were big tent poles, and then they both go to the theaters, right?
Right.
Now what's happening is it sort of seems as though that those movies that were founded by like funded by Miramax or by like Fox Searchlight or one of the smaller companies, like like those sort of Oscar movies or like those smaller projects, passion projects and whatnot, are getting funded by the streaming services and are going straight to the streaming services. And then the only thing that's left for the theaters are just primarily the big tentpole movies that are coming from the sort of the big studios, right?
Hmm.
So whereas before both would show in the theaters, now it seems like the theaters are sort of relegated at least primarily to these huge movies, and then the smaller movies have sort of like a limited theater release so they can go to the Oscars, but really just go straight to the streaming services. You've been seeing that with like a lot of the films, like the awards films in the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, of course. Um, Films like Irishman comes to mind, right? I don't even think it hit, or I only saw it at the TIFF Bell Lightbox, but primarily it was on Netflix, right? And still contended for the Oscars. A movie like The King, for example, Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Again, I watched it in the TIFF Bell Lightbox, but it was for Netflix. And Borat, the sequel, won Golden Globe for best comedy, right? And that was on Amazon Prime. That wasn't even in the theaters. So it is I'm gonna call it a scary time, because I'm a huge fan of movie theaters. That was a dream of mine,
Yeah.
and you never know what's possible. I wouldn't completely deny the opportunity that I'll have, but at the same time, it would be really, really sad that filmmakers that grew up going to the cinema, enjoying, seeing films from their heroes on the screen. Big Tarantino fan, right? So just
Yeah.
watching a movie like Django Unchained on the screen or Inglourious Basterds is so much different than watching it at home. And I think that's what every filmmaker in their heart, or at least what I believe, I would want my films to be seen in that light, in that experience. It's just a different dynamic. Would you agree on that? Are you indifferent about it, or?
No, dude, I want theaters to stick around too, and I don't think
Yeah.
theaters are necessarily going anywhere.
Hmm.
I don't think theaters are going anywhere, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
I just think the model for filmmaking and funding through theaters is going to change,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel as though the pandemic is obviously like crushing movie theaters, but like, um, I hope and I have the opinion that when this hopefully all ends, and if it ends sort of cleanly, that I think people will want to go back to the theaters, and I
Yeah.
think people will rush back to the theaters, you know.
I think it'll benefit us, like you just said, like the whole business model, marketing, distribution, all that. I think it's going to benefit more and more people in our situation where we're trying to get to that. We can kind of avoid the whole Hollywood system, and get our films noticed, because there's not so much of a competition, if that makes sense. But I don't think movie theaters will completely become obsolete. And the reason why I believe that is because it's a social experience. It's not something
Mhm.
that, like a blockbuster. Blockbuster, I would argue, in a way, was a social experience, but at the same time, you weren't really interacting with many people. It was more for yourself, like a solo act. You kind of go pick which movies you want. But a movie theater, that's like going on a date or hanging out with friends. And it's almost like them saying restaurants are going to be out of business because there's not going to be any more restaurants because you could just get Hello Fresh and they deliver food to your house. Restaurants will always be around because people are always curious about, chefs, what they can offer, different foods, trying out different foods, but at its core, an excuse to get out and a meeting place to have conversation with friends and family. So I believe that with movie theaters, as much as you're not talking during the movie, and I hope you're not, but if it's bad, I can understand that. It's a social experience, and there's nothing like that. Just being in the theater, and I miss that, watching the screen and hearing people laugh at a joke or going gasping like something happened. And even for myself, again, I bring up Django Unchained because that was the movie that really solidified, um, my admiration for Tarantino. It's because the theater, the experience, just seeing how he was able to pull the strings on the audience and the music and how everyone was just pumped, and it just grabs you. It takes hold of you and you're not distracted at all. Like my phone wasn't taken out once. I didn't go to the bathroom once. And I guess what I'm trying to say is to have that immersive experience again is something that no one should be deprived of. Everyone should have experienced at least once. So movie theaters, don't go away. We love you. And we also love your popcorn. I know I do.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Right? The Cineplex.
My favorite, dude. It's a problem how much I love it.
Buddy, I think I tried to order it once because someone was saying you could do it through Uber Eats,
I
and I don't
tried
know
that
if
too.
yeah, I don't know if the demand was high, but I couldn't get through. It was like error. It was like unable to process. I was like, okay, maybe people have the same idea I have, but and I love those guys. I love you, the Cineplex, but during a pandemic, still charging $30 for a bag of popcorn. I guess they just know that they're the shit, like that.
That's
That's
what
what
you
they're.
gotta do, I guess.
That's what they're all about, man.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, it's an interesting ride, man. Pandemic and everything like that. And you're in York region, right? So the restrictions are slowly getting lifted as you're explaining, right? That's why you're filming now.
Yeah.
Or you're just kind of laying low. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So other than that, it was a great conversation having you on like always. And
Pleasure. It's been great.
yeah, always enjoy talking about movies with you. And like I said, guys, check out his page, IMDb page, Eric Tomj, Man vs. Food, long, long time. I know I'm very excited to watch those um, projects and see your growth as a filmmaker. And these projects that you worked on last, we'll talk about more as things develop. What they were all about, and maybe some fun experiences that you went through.
I'd love to show you. There'll be some stuff coming soon. I can show some stuff on the podcast or whatever. I have tons
Yeah,
of
for
stuff I
sure.
can bring if you're interested. Yeah.
Yeah, always tell our tell our audience about it. I can't even speak today. And yeah, we'll go from there. All right. So thanks again, everyone, for joining in. Thank you again, Eric Tomj, and we'll talk soon.